Kepada yang terhormat Direktur Direktorat International Affairs UPI, serta Bapak Ibu sekalian, selamat pagi dan selamat datang, salam sejahtera. Puji dan syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala atas limpahan rahmat dan karunia-Nya. Alhamdulillah, pada hari ini, Jumat, tanggal 23 April 2021, kita dapat berkumpul dan bertatap maya secara virtual melalui Zoom meeting dalam keadaan sehat dan bahagia. Perkenalkan, nama saya Arifia Ahmada selaku MC acara Preparation for International Class, Sharing on Cross-Cultural Understanding. Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, sebelum dimulai, izinkan saya membacakan rangkaian kegiatan hari ini. Pertama-tama akan dibuka dengan sambutan dari Direktur Direktorat of International Affairs, kemudian masuk ke acara inti, yaitu akan ada sharing dari para narasumber serta tanya jawab, dan terakhir akan ada sesi foto bersama untuk menutup acara. Pertama-tama kita dengarkan sambutan dari Bapak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim selaku Direktur Direktorat of International Affairs. Kepada Pak Abu, dipersilakan.
Terima kasih, Arifia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Ibu Bapak yang terhormat, para peserta perwakilan dari Prodi, mungkin di sini ada pimpinan Prodi, Ibu dan Bapak Prodi, para dosen perwakilan, dan juga para pembicara. Terima kasih, Ruth. Apa kabar, Ruth?
Thank you, Pa. Yes, I'm doing great. I'm really glad to be here.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. So Ruth is far from Ukraine, but she is invited to come and attend these sessions. Hopefully, yes. She's one of alumni. And yang kedua adalah Saprola. Sap, apa kabar, Sap?
Halo, Pak. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'm good.
Saprola is also one of our students, doctoral students at UPI. Yang berikutnya adalah juga akan menjadi pembicara adalah Ibu Yeni Yuniawati. Bu Yeni, apa kabar?
Alhamdulillah baik, Pak. Hatur nuhun.
Sami-sami. Dan juga tentu saja host kita ya, itu Pak Cep Ubad Abdullah. Ibu Bapak yang saya hormati, ini adalah sesi dalam judul flyernya, sesi ketiga ya, Rivia ya. Kemarin kita sudah sesi kedua tentang how to develop syllabus. Kemudian sebelumnya hari Ahad yang lalu, betul atau hari Kamis, kalau tidak salah hari Kamis yang lalu ya, sesi tentang kelas internasional. Jadi ini adalah lanjutan dari sesi sebelumnya, dan fokus kita pada sesi pagi hari ini adalah cross cultural understanding. Ya, kalau kita berbicara internasional, kelas internasional, pasti kita akan berbicara masalah cross cultural understanding, karena perbedaan budaya ya, bagaimana budaya Indonesia dan juga budaya dari mahasiswa kita. Untuk ini, sengaja pada sesi ketiga ini kita mengundang para mahasiswa, tidak hanya dosen ya, karena kita ingin mendengar langsung seperti apa pemahaman mahasiswa internasional tentang Indonesia, tentang kuliah di UPI, apa ekspektasi mereka ketika mereka kuliah di UPI ya, ketika mereka duduk di kelas di UPI. Kalau kita misalnya mungkin saja tentu saja berbeda antara ekspektasi misalnya Arifia ya sebagai mahasiswa orang Indonesia, dan juga dengan Ruth dulu ketika menjadi mahasiswa, kemudian juga Saprola juga ya. Tentu mereka memiliki ekspektasi yang berbeda-beda, dan tadinya kita berharap banyak lagi mahasiswa yang terlibat dalam sebagai pembicara, tapi karena keterbatasan waktu ya kita hanya memilih 2 orang ini. Tapi mudah-mudahan yang 2 orang ini bisa memberikan gambaran ya. Jadi kalau kita nanti di kelas kita misalnya ada mahasiswa internasional baik dari negara manapun, ya mudah-mudahan ekspektasi mereka relatif sama. Kemudian juga kita juga akan mendengarkan sharing mungkin pengalaman dari Bu Yeni ya. Bu Yeni sudah Prodi MPP itu sudah menerima mahasiswa dalam program AIMS ya Bu Yeni ya. Jadi meskipun AIMS itu mahasiswanya dari ASEAN ya, tapi sekarang juga mulai dari Korea, dari China, dari Japan ya. Kita juga ingin melihat seperti apa mungkin pengalaman yang pernah Bu Yeni rasakan, atau juga mungkin dosen lain gitu di MPP berkaitan dengan mahasiswa internasional. Tentu saja kita berharap nanti ada semacam pemahaman kita tentang siapa, seperti apa karakter mahasiswa internasional. Kita ingin agar tentu saja pembelajaran nanti di kelas internasional sangat bisa memenuhi ekspektasi dari mahasiswa internasional dan juga tentu saja ekspektasi dari para dosen. Karena mungkin saja ada hal-hal yang menurut para dosen dalam budaya Indonesia itu sudah biasa, tapi tentu mungkin tidak biasa untuk mahasiswa internasional. Contoh misal dalam kasus misalnya kelas online misalnya. Di kita kan mungkin kemarin Ibu Gigin berbicara tentang contact information ya, tentang contact persons. Karena ada kasus sekarang misalnya di mahasiswa internasional yang dia kesulitan untuk mengikuti kelas online. Karena misalnya mungkin dia tidak terbiasa dengan WhatsApp group misalnya ya. Atau dalam WhatsApp group mungkin ada masalah bahasa karena diskusinya dalam bahasa Indonesia misalnya, dia tidak bisa mengikuti. Mungkin saja ya. Oke, jadi hal seperti itu mungkin saja bagi dosen kita, masa WhatsApp saja tidak tahu? Kadang-kadang kita berpikir begitu ya, ternyata mungkin bagi mahasiswa internasional tidak semudah itu, karena mungkin beberapa negara bahkan tidak menggunakan WhatsApp ya. Misalnya saya tahu misalkan di Filipina itu mereka tidak.
Ya Pak, tidak.
Menggunakan WhatsApp ya? Apa yang dipakai sana WhatsApp yang biasa?
Messenger Pak.
Nah, itu. Nah, seperti itu mungkin kita harus, jadi ketika ada mahasiswa internasional, kalau kita membuat grup WhatsApp, tanya dulu, kamu di negara kamu punya WhatsApp tidak? Ada tidak WhatsApp-nya misalnya? Kalau kita pakai WhatsApp bisa tidak, atau kalau misalnya pakai apa? Apa Messenger atau Line? Itu contoh kecil ya, bagaimana ternyata budaya itu sangat berbeda, dan tentu saja sebagai dosen kita harus akomodatif ya. Misal, ketika kita misalnya mengadakan ekstra misalnya ya, tambahan misalnya, mungkin harus kita tanya dulu apakah mereka bersedia atau tidak untuk mendapatkan misalnya makeup class ya. Kalau misalnya itu misalnya diadakannya pada akhir pekan misalnya, pada hari Sabtu ataupun pada hari Minggu misalnya, kita harus tanya dulu apakah mereka ada kegiatan atau mereka misalnya harus ada kegiatan keagamaan misalnya yang mereka harus hadiri. Nah, itu juga contohnya bagaimana kita harus bisa memahami ya cultural background dari siswa. Jadi sekali lagi saya mengucapkan terima kasih ini kepada Ruth. Ruth ini nanti mungkin MC akan memberikan ini ya CV-nya Pak Obad ya. Siapa itu Ruth? Ruth itu alumni kita yang luar biasa. SAP juga ini juga sudah berapa tahun di UPI dan sekarang menjadi salah satu mahasiswa doktoral kita juga ya. Dan juga ini nanti dari Bu Yeni juga pengalamannya yang luar biasa, nanti kita sharing bersama-sama. Kemudian dalam acara kita pada pagi ini berjalan lancar. Targetnya pas sampai pukul 11 ya Pak Obad ya?
Ya, betul Pak.
Ya, dan tentu saja ini bagi yang Muslim ini sekarang masih, mudah-mudahan ini juga menjadi amal soleh kita ya. Ini belum ngabuburit ini Pak Obad ya, masih siang.
Ngabuburang.
Demikian yang bisa saya sampaikan. Mudah-mudahan acara ini berjalan lancar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Langsung saja kita masuk ke acara ini, yaitu sharing dengan para narasumber yang akan dimoderatori oleh Pak Cik
Oke, suaranya kecil sekali tapi ya terima kasih Via. Ya, bismillah, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to you all. Mudah-mudahan semuanya sehat, mudah-mudahan semuanya yang berpuasa tetap semangat. Walaupun kata Pak Abu tadi belum waktunya ngabuburit ya, tapi kita dalam rangka acara workshop ini mudah-mudahan semakin semangat. Sebagaimana tadi yang sudah disampaikan oleh Pak Abu bahwa memang tujuan dari adanya e-sharing on cross-cultural understanding sebagai rangkaian dari Preparing International Class ini adalah untuk menambah perspektif kita, begitu memperlihatkan perspektif lain begitu ya, terutama bagi para dosen sebetulnya bagaimana sih kita mendengar voice of the students begitu ya, of the international students. Makanya pemateri dari e-sharing kita kali ini yang pertama dan kedua itu adalah student dan nanti akan ditutup oleh pemateri dari Bu Yeni. But I need to ask Ruth, would you like to deliver the presentation in English, Indonesian, or Japanese?
Wow. Well, I think English will be all right because my presentation is in English.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Well, before I invite you, I would like to read your brief CV to reintroduce you to the participants of today's e-sharing. So, ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker is going to be Ruth Chaikivska. Is it correct? How to actually pronounce it? How to actually pronounce your last name, Ruth?
Yeah, Indonesians usually have the problem with my family name, but we spell it like Chaikivska.
Chaikivska. Okay, Chaikivska. All right. She was born and raised in, is it Lviv? Another.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. She was born and raised in Lviv, Ukraine, and she graduated from the Ivan Franko Lviv National University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in Japanese language. Ohayo gozaimasu, Japanese language and literature. A few years later, in 2020, she graduated from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia with a master's degree in English education. Currently, she is preparing to start teaching English at one of the international schools in West Jakarta. Also, you enjoy staying in Indonesia, Ruth?
Oh, yes, a lot.
She's been staying in Indonesia for nearly 5 years, enjoying learning Indonesian languages and cultures. In addition to that, she has a great interest in language learning and teaching, and also intercultural communication, which makes her one of the best and suitable speaker for today's session. So, Ruth, you have 30 minutes to share your experiences. The floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I will start sharing my presentation. Okay. Okay. Can you see it? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be here, and I want to say thank you to Pak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim for inviting me to this sharing session, and I hope my experience will be helpful for you. And so today I would like to share my intercultural experiences as international student at UPI. I got a really long way, long journey that I had in UPI, and I would like to share some aspects of it because I'm sure it cannot be fit in 30 minutes. I would talk a few days about it, but I will try my best. Okay. So actually, I'm from Ukraine. This is the country in the Eastern Europe. For those who are not who don't know about the country, yeah. So it's a brief explanation. So this is my country, how it looks like, and I'm from Western Ukraine, which is close to Poland. And as you can see on this slide, I took this from Google Maps. Lviv is my hometown, and it's really, really far from Bandung. It's nearly 10,000 kilometers, and it's so far. It took around 17 hours to get here to Indonesia for me. So it was quite long journey when I came here for the first time, and then when I came here again. So I want to start with my first trip to Indonesia. It happened 30th of August in 2016. It was my first time experience flying, as I already mentioned, 10,000 kilometers away from home and alone. So it was my first experience trying to fly by plane alone and so far from home. Some people said I'm crazy. Some people say they don't understand what I'm doing. But somehow I got this passion, I got this curiosity that drive me to come here to Indonesia and explore it. And I have prepared this kind of journey that I had, which is divided in 4 stages. 2016, I came here to Indonesia as a Dharma Siswa student. It's a language and culture learning program. And after 2016, I supposed to go back home and then stay there. But I was like, no, I like Indonesia so much. I want to continue here. So after I came back, I decided to apply for another program, which is KNB scholarship program for master degree program. Yeah. And 2017, I had to continue my culture and language learning. And also 2018 and until 20, I had to take my master degree. And 2021, I became the UPI alumni. So these are my yearly schedule for UPI, you know, and I want to start with this 2 years that I had is Dharma Siswa and KNB, which is focused on language and culture learning. So what happened in these 2 years? When I just came to Indonesia for the first time, I realized there are so many students came from different countries, 74 countries, and in total it was 638 students from from different countries and 21 students from Ukraine. In this picture, you can see the guys from Ukraine that we gathered. We all came to Jakarta. We met there and we had the opening ceremony there. And then after a few days there, I came to Bandung for a first time. And this is the picture, me standing in front of UPI in my very first day in Bandung. And later I can compare this picture to the one I have after I graduated. So this is really a special picture for me. And we got this international class that we had. So we learned Bahasa Indonesia in a program BIPA. And there were so many students from different countries, from Morocco, Nigeria, from Zimbabwe, from Laos, Germany, and many other countries. And in my class, this is my class for the first year that I had in Dasar 1. And then this Dasar 1, Dasar 2, Menengah 1, and Menengah 2 is the division for the classes that we have. And first two, Dasar 1 and 2, it was the first year. And Menengah 1, Menengah 2, it was the second year of BIPA for me. And this is how our routine looked like. We had a really fun time spending in surrounded by a lot of cultures, a lot of different opinions, people that have different experiences, backgrounds. And it was really, really fun to have this opportunity to share to each other, to know some specifics of each culture. And it was really, really nice to have this integration, you know. And I really enjoy this Lesehan classes. And we had these classes a lot, like having some activities. And we had the Bahasa Indonesia Club after the classes. So we had some games there. And you can see the pictures are just few of them that I have. And we also had the music, traditional music classes, which were also really fun. And we had a lot of cultural events. As you can see here, it was a dancing event. We had to prepare and perform the dancing events, the traditional games festival, some cultural days, and different events where we could learn about Indonesian culture as well as learn about each other's cultures as well. We also got a lot of trips to different places such as Malang, Lembang. We got to Bromo and Garut, and yeah, it was really fun. And it was one of the some of the memorable times for me. And I would like to I enjoyed Balai Bahasa Live last degree. And it turned to be a really different experience from the one that I had before. So this is the picture of my class. Hello, can you hear me?
There was some connection issue, I think.
Oh, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, but you're back. Yeah, but you're back now.
Okay. Yes, so this is the picture of my class during my master degree. As you can see, it's so different from what I experienced last 2 years before that, because all of my classmates were Indonesians, and only me was international students. So it was so different experience for me, as I had to have this transition from international class to mostly Indonesian one. So it was really interesting for me. As we start learning, it was more, I would say, focused on my academic results. We learned a lot, and we spent our time learning a lot. I got a lot of friends there who helped me, because the first time, I would say, even though it was most of the classes were in English, but there were some of the classes in Indonesian. So I needed a lot of help from my friends, as I didn't understand the academic language, which I didn't really learn before. So they helped me a lot, and also my professors, and they were really kind to me, and they always had good advice for me. And also we kept the connection between our international friends as well, as you can see on the pictures. And we also discussed our problems, our difficulties that we had in our learning. And 2020, I finally graduated. After a big struggle, I finally could do that, and I really thank God for that. So you remember this picture, the first day in Bandung in front of Isola, I took this picture. So now this is the picture I graduated. I'm in the same place.
Same place, different time.
Yeah, yeah. It'd been 4 years that I stayed in UPI, maybe a little more. And here I would like to explain a little bit about how different I realized our country can be and the cultures that we have. So I made some of the points that that show the difference between our cultures. In Ukraine, we are more individualistic, I would say. We are more into, doing things for ourselves sometimes. And in Indonesia, I realized the collectivism is more, I can feel it in the society somehow, that people are more gathered together. They like to do things in groups. And it was weird when I was going outside to the mall or something to walk around alone, and my friends always ask me like, "What, are you walking alone? Is it okay?" Like that. So it was even weird that I'm spending time by myself. And also in Ukraine, we have a lower power distance. Indonesia, I noticed there is a little higher power distance. What is that? What is the power distance? It is the how close we are to people. And for example, in Ukraine, I can name my brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties by name, and it won't be a problem at all. So I can call my auntie, "Hey Sarah, can you do blah blah blah?" So here in Indonesia, it's supposed to be really rude if I only call somebody by name. So I noticed that here in Indonesia, you have a lot of prefixes, a lot of special names for people like Mbak, Kak, and other things. So I need to learn about this a lot. And until now, I think I have some difficulties in understanding where should I use Pa, or where should I use Mas, or A, or other ways to call people. And also I noticed that Ukrainians, they are more straightforward. if they don't like something, if they don't feel comfortable, they would say it straight away. In Indonesia, people value avoiding the conflict more. So they would agree with you even if they don't sometimes. So, or sometimes they try to be really soft in refusing people or, yeah, so I think some points here that I experienced in Indonesia, yeah. And also Ukraine, I noticed that people are more into being on time, while in Indonesia there is a jam karet, as I heard this phrase a lot. So this is the thing that I need to get used to when I've been studying there in Indonesia, in Bandung. So also I'm sure you're familiar with this culture shock curve. It is really popular, and everybody's when international students start studying abroad, they will be exposed to this curve to know what is the things that they are expected to experience later, because it's a normal thing to have the culture shock for international student. And I would like to share what actually I experienced during each of these stages. I will do it really briefly. So in a honeymoon period, I felt really curious about Indonesia, really excited. And as I love learning languages, I was really excited about learning Indonesian language and also some local languages, which turned to be really difficult for me, actually. And I also was really, really excited about studying in international class to learn about other people's countries, and also about new food, new places, new friends. The whole new environment was really exciting for me, and I was so into exploring every aspect of my stay here. And then suddenly, after maybe half a year staying in Indonesia, the culture shock came. And usually in this stage, people feel homesick a lot. And me also, I was feeling homesick. I felt like I don't understand things and people don't understand me. How can I get this? And it was quite difficult for me to cope with that. And also I start to idealize my old life, and I miss my family a lot. So it was quite different and challenging time for me. And I'm sure there are a lot of international students can relate to these feelings. And also after that, maybe slowly I started to make some compromises. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I should learn about this more. Maybe they don't understand me because I didn't share enough. Maybe I don't understand people because I didn't learn about their culture enough. And also the routine came, and every day I got some new experiences which turned to be more regular, and it made me more calm about my feelings. And also I noticed my own progress in learning, which made me really proud of myself in a way, because now I could understand people and I can communicate better. And yeah, adaptation came after that. So I felt the comfort and a sense of belonging here. And I also felt the stability. So this is the stage where I finally felt like I am accepted here, I like here, and yeah, it was really nice feeling that I belong here. So because of that, I learned a lot of things through all the 4 years, a little more staying in UPI. I learned a lot of things, and my UPI gave me this things that I just listed here in this slide. So I think the first thing I learned about the gratitude and appreciation for the small things. So basically, I was moved from my comfort zone into the zone where I never been before. Everything is new, and I had to survive by myself without my family who care about me. And so I learned about gratitude for things that I had before. And also I learned about the beauty of adventure. So I started enjoying adventures a lot. I like new things, and I got a sense of confidence when I feel like, oh, I could come to Indonesia. I could do this step. I could study here. So it gave me a lot of confidence when I did when I got the success in learning sometime. It was really nice. And also the ability to connect with others, not only with Indonesians, but with international students as well. So it's really boost my confidence as well. And also active listening, as I had to learn about Indonesia and all the other countries also. So I had to learn how to listen to people and accepting differences, to do some self-reflection. And also one of the most important things is learning about tolerance, how to tolerate some people's opinions, even if I didn't been exposed to that opinion before. And also I learned about connection with my life. I got the reconnection with my life direction. So I realized what I want to do, and I realized that I will keep doing things that I like. And finally, I realized the world is wide, and there are so many other experiences that I still can go through. And I think this is it for my presentation. I'm really thankful for UPI and for the both program, Dharma Siswa and KNB, that I could stay in UPI and have my unforgettable experiences as international student here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for such a fruitful presentation. I believe that you started to be an Indonesian as you chose the phrase time flexible for the antonym of the values punctuality. So it means that you are a little bit Indonesian right now. Well, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the discussion session will be commenced after all the speakers have delivered their presentation. So if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat box, or later you can raise your hand. For the second speaker, I would like to invite Saprola Roli Kaledeporos. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. He graduated from University of Southeastern Philippines for his Bachelor of Elementary Education, Maj Islamic Study. What is Maj there, Sap?
Major.
Oh, major. I'm sorry. Majoring in Islamic Studies in 2007. And he also took a one-year program at University of Brunei Darussalam of TASL. Is it teaching Arabic for second language?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, so you speak Arabic?
I speak Arabic.
Ah, Sabahul Khair.
Yeah, Sabahul Nur.
And Education and Administration in 2009, and Masters at Universitas Muhammad Surakarta on Educational Administration in 2015. And also he took another one-year program at UPI, Dharma Siswa, the same as what Ruth took in 2017 to 2018. And he also took a short course in Malaysia on education administration as well in 2019. And he is currently a PhD student at UPI on education, majoring in educational administration. But he also was a PhD exchange student program, UNY, right? At UNY, yes. Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta in 2019. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to Saprola. You have 30 minutes, Sap.
Okay, good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. So this morning, my presentation is a bit different from what Ruth presented. I think it's very good also that Ruth presented something very, very interesting about her, educational experience, even personal experience, being an international student in Indonesia. So for me, I'm going to share a little bit of intercultural differences, the perspective of international students in UP. So my objective of this presentation is in order to give picture that is circulating among international students to be understood and acted upon from both parties. So basically, the purpose of this presentation is to understand what is actually going on among international students now in UP. Like even before when I was Dharma Siswa, actually I was Dharma Siswa year 2017 and 2018, I think after Ruth. So the coverage of my presentation this morning is, of course, I'm going to have a little bit of introduction, and then I'm going to highlight two reasons why we need to understand intercultural differences, and then I'm going to give example, and then I'm going to give some existing and likely experiences in UP. I think this is very um, timely because we are, having a lot of international program in UP. So these kind of experiences that actually circulating now in UP is very helpful for us to, like dissect more what can we, like offer to our students. And then I'm going to talk a little bit of understanding culture and then the conclusion. My mantra for today is consider to deliver. But before that, I'm going to show you first my place. This is the Philippines, of course. And then from Bandung to, by the way, I came from Davao City. Davao City is the third major city in the Philippines. We have Manila, we have Cebu, and then we have Davao. So from Davao going to Bandung, you can just take Davao to Singapore and then Singapore to Bandung. Or if you want also, you can also take Davao to Malaysia, Davao to Manila, Manila to Jakarta, or Manila to Malaysia, to Bandung and Jakarta. Either way, you can use that one. So basically, yeah, the time difference of Philippines and Indonesia is only 1 hour. So if we are 10 o'clock here in Indonesia, so in the Philippines we are 11 o'clock. So this presentation is made based on experiences, stories, and advices from several international students. So actually, I made this what do you call this one? This presentation based on the experiences that is happening actually among international students, their stories, their advices from several students. So basically, when Abu invited me to talk about this one, I spoke to some international students, even in WhatsApp, in Messenger, like international students before and now. What are their experiences and stories? So I made this one from that particular matter. And then number two, this presentation is an opportunity that somehow can widen and strengthen the university, I mean UP, on how to approach towards the international students effectively to achieve their vision. Because I know that UP is one of the best universities in Indonesia, so we are having a lot of like international students. I remember before when I was there, Musiswa, I think we are almost like more than 300, like international students before, and I think that's too much already. So, and this kind of stuff that I'm going to present now is very important because this is really the reality that's happening among international students. And then one of the things also that I want to project is we are here, of course, to educate ourselves academically, and of course extra, I mean like non-academic, and then we have to act upon it, and then we can achieve success for whatever endeavors we're going to uh, go or do. So for my presentation proper, before I'm going to start, of course, I would like to inform, which is very known also, that everybody has individual differences, not only us as international students, but of course in Indonesia also. This country has a very rich culture, and that's also considered as individual differences. If you talk about individual differences, of course, physically we have differences in terms of physical appearance, our intelligence, achievements, attitudes, religious belief, and even political views. I said this one because I'm talking about international differences. Of course, Indonesia also is part of it. Okay, so number one, why is it that we need to understand intercultural differences? Number one reason is because of awareness. Of course, we in UP, um, we have a lot of program catering international students. So if we know these people, for example, we can actually connect to them more, because the more people you know from different backgrounds, the more tolerant you feel of different ways of living. So since we are dealing with international students, so the best thing that we're going to do is to understand their, like grassroots. Who are these people? Because from that perspective, we can actually do more and give more to our international students. That's one reason why we need to understand intercultural differences. So in UP, actually, there are some unlikely experiences that is happening among international students. So as what I've said earlier, before I speak or started this presentation, my presentation is different from Ruth because this one is based from the experiences or stories and advices from, like circulating among international students. So someone like the experiences that is happening among international students that they felt this kind of stuff is colorism and discrimination. According to some students, they said that in UP, we are experiencing colorism, meaning to say, if you are black, if you are from Africa, for example, if you are from Southeast Asia, if you are, for example, from Central Asia, the treatment from these people compared to European are different. So that's according to some students that I spoke to them before. And then other one is discrimination, also racial discrimination. Maybe, of course, UP are not. Our university is not, there's no intention to discriminate everybody, because the fact that they accepted different students from different country, of course there's no bad intention for that. But since this kind of mindset is from the people who are studying here, I think it's we cannot control their minds, because that's how they thought. So according to them, there are some racial discrimination uh, happening in UP. So I there are some like texts that I received from like some international students when I talk to them that I have presentation with UP, DIA, Director of International Affairs, and then they said this one. There are some instances that is happening in UP saying that, oh, how come she won the competition with a very bad presentation? So there are some comments that actually circulating among international students. Another one, there is one message, given to me by one friend who is now studying in UP, says that as an international student, I have got a lot of good experiences in UP. The few bad experiences that I have encountered is related to the time when I was in BIPA. Sometimes I saw the teachers are not fully fair to students. Sometimes they don't measure the efforts of some students, and so on and so forth. So this is very long. But I think the thing that she wants to emphasize is that even in BIPA, like of course before we're going to start, me as Dharmasisto before, of course I studied in BIPA for 1 year. And I think this is really true also. I think this student happened, I think, before the pandemic, something like that. So her experience maybe is like there are some not fair treatment among students in BIPA. So if I'm not going to go to details with that one, the thing is we know that some students feel this kind of things. So what we want to emphasize is that sometimes we in a like in a very big and very prestigious university, uh, based on these stories and based on these experiences from these students, I think we cannot judge as what I've said here, that don't judge the quality of the gasoline by the filling station attendant. So the students came here, we want to study. So of course, as what Ruth said, that after she adapted everything in UP, she tried to start exploring and understanding everything like this for her to learn more and explore more. So since the students here, they came here for education, I think if they felt this kind of feelings, somehow it hinders them to study more, and the problem like started from within, and then they struggle a lot along the way. So I think the best thing that we're going to do is to look for the students who can deliver well. For example, if you're going to send someone in some seminar, for example, outside UP, we have to look for the best students that who can deliver more, and then look for the students who can carry the flag with confidence and pride of UP. Because there are some instances also that maybe some of the students, international students, they felt that, oh, why is it that she sent this one, why they didn't send me? I thought that I can deliver more compared to this and that, because if they're going to send this kind of students, it will just stay there and so on and so forth. And then the thing that I can actually say from these experiences, not my personal experiences, but the experiences as a whole, as international students in UP, we have to like aim for the great benefits. Of course, like with this kind of things that is happening among international students, I think the best thing that we can do for them not to feel that, because for example like this, there are some students also before, not before actually, now it's happening now. They are from Africa, but sometimes they felt that why is it that they are, like they called us that we came from Papua. So sometimes they felt like, I don't know, I don't want to, like explain more about myself. I'm not, I came from Africa. I'm not from Papua, something like this. So I think the best thing that we can do is it's about time for us in UPI to give international students uniform, I think. Like not, I mean, for us in ISA, we have that one, but I think we need to give this kind, for example, it depends maybe jazz or jacket officially, so that they can use that one in order for them to be recognized as international students. Because there are some students, for example, in Thailand, they wear hijab and so on and so forth. And then people are saying, "Oh, are you from West Java?" Actually, it's not discrimination, but sometimes they felt, like uncomfortable with that because in the first place they are not local students, but they are from Thailand, something like that. Number two, why we need to understand cultural differences because of international peace. We don't want war, of course. Like as what Ruth actually I take photo with the presentation of Ruth about the difference cultural differences of Ukrainian and Indonesian. So of course for us from the Philippines and Indonesia we have not that so much differences because we came from Southeast Asia. So we need to understand these cultural differences because we need international peace. So we want to accommodate everyone. We want to like meet halfway because from that uh, we know how to respect people because sometimes we cannot like avoid the fact that maybe we intentionally we don't have any bad intention, but according to the interpretation of other students is somehow offensive to them. So for them to be able to understand what is really happening, so we need the art of communication. Communication is very important. Of course, now that we are in pandemic, it's hard to like communicate like compare before because when I was in Dharma Siswa, I really had a very great experiences for that 11 months. And I can say, every time when people ask me the best, one of the best experiences that I had when I was studying, around Southeast Asia is actually in Dharma Siswa. So during that time, there's a, like a very diverse people, but even though we have this one, because of the constant communication, I think there's no bad things happening. So some, experiences that have been sent to me before having this presentation, it says that, oh, mereka menang ya, kenapa? Ah, ya udah karena kita dari Asia Tenggara, jadi Asia Tenggara itu dekat dari Indonesia, so mereka mungkin tidak suka kita seperti itu. So there are some instances that is happening or circulating among international students like this also. And then there is actually one thing that is happening actually before. It says that they said they don't want to give us the letter because we are low performers. I think this one happens in DIPA. But the two friends who had the letter, I think I am more better than them. This is actually what I want to emphasize. Before it happens that there is international like conference outside UP, and then actually I'm one of them who was sent there. I don't have any problem with this one, but according to this student, she talked a lot about this one, like why is it that BPA is very unfair because I'm like this, I'm not from Europe, so they're not going to choose me. But when Pa Eka said like, oh, because you're not that, like you have a lot of absences and blah blah blah. When this particular student compare her performance to others, and she said like, I think I'm more better than them because even those students who were sent there, actually they're not also joining the class properly. So basically from these experiences, why I cited this one, I cited this one because this is the reality what is happening in UP. So maybe some students they felt they're ignored. So being ignored is somehow a baggage that is actually like carrying of that particular student. And it's really true that even me myself, I've been studying for several universities in Southeast Asia, but still I can feel what do you call this one? I miss my family, even though just 4 hours I can just go there. But sometimes I feel this one, I miss my family and so on and so forth. So if this kind of things happens to these students, for example, of course, along the way when they're studying, there's a lot of struggle. Maybe they will not, because, we as students here in UP, not everything we can share it to Paabo, to Ibu Tutsi like this. So if this kind of stuff will not be lesson or will not be avoided by UP, for example, of course, there's a lot of students will suffer this. For example, the time of Abdurrahman from Syria, even though we understand that there's something like happening from him, but if we go deep down, maybe there's something more that we don't know. So that's the thing that I actually want to emphasize. So we have to ask ourselves, for example, if we're going to send people from other, from competition, from UP outside UP, for example, like this, we have to explain to them why we have to send these people there and not you. Because if we communicate with these students, I think somehow they will understand it. They are international students. They will understand what is happening because, of course, not everybody can be accommodated. Only few people will be accommodated. So the only thing that we can do is to explain to them properly. So what is culture, by the way? Of course, in terms of culture, everybody, especially in UP, of course, you know this one a lot because compared to my university before when I was in the Philippines, I think our international students are only from Korea and from India. But here, like almost every, country we have here in UP. So you know a lot about this one. But as part of my presentation, I will just emphasize about the analogy of icebergs. I think this one is one of the best example of, understanding about culture, wherein we have the upper surface and the below surface. So basically, if we talk about culture, it talks about, of course, the behavior of the person, a physical appearance, the foods that is actually the outside. But the deeper down, if we're going to go deeper down about the culture, it actually talks about the attitude, the belief, the values, and the creed of each and every one. So basically, the culture is a system that members of a group share and use to cope with one another and with their world. So basically, it's not just about tangible, but it's also intangible part of a person when it comes to culture. So I think I'm almost done with my presentation. I think the best thing that we can actually do is to learn from these students. And basically, UP, we have a lot of very good activities, and I learned and I enjoyed a lot of that one. So through these activities that actually we are doing, I think the best thing that we're going to do is like to observe, okay? Through UP activities, we were able to see the interest of the students. We can actually observe who among these students are actually, like performing well and doing well, so that we can have fairness and equality. For example, if we are going to send them anywhere for, like other extracurricular activities. So through interaction, through cooperation, we can actually check them if they are actually what kind of students they are, and then whatever initial result from this assessment, for example, we can do something that can actually improve them, something like that, because we as international students, we really need advice also. It doesn't mean that we came from other countries, we don't need advices from our teachers. Actually, it's more appreciating if we can hear something from UP, for example, that, oh, this one and that one and so on and so forth. So we just have to focus our goal, and then focusing our goal, we need this consideration that we need to communicate with them. So for my conclusion, I can say that I think the best way for us to be able to, whatever endeavors we are doing or to trying to succeed, we have to consideration is very important. Although this consideration is very subjective, but in order to be understood it properly by students, we need to have a good communication in order for us to deliver well to whatever activities we are pursuing. So basically, these students, they came from different countries, they have different cultures, they have different perspective. We cannot blame them sometimes if they think that way, because that's how they think. Like they are different. So the thing that we can actually do in order to understand them well and in order for us to deliver well, we have to consider, we have to communicate in order for us to, give them whatever things that we can actually give. So I think that's all for my presentation this morning. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. So I'm Chap. I'm currently in my fourth semester. And this coming 28 is my bimbingan bersama. So I'm actually busy also with this. Thank you so much. And Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Saf. To be honest, I really like the analogy of the gas station attendant that you use. It is clearly evident that international communication really enrich your points of view. Also, thank you so much for revealing some facts. I mean, the way that you actually talked to some of the international students at UP and came up with some occurrences and examples of how they were treated, or how they felt they were treated. It was really great. But we're going to come to the Q&A after the last presenter. So our last speaker, her full name is Ibu Yeni Yuniawati. She earned her bachelor's degree in English education at UPI and master's degree in business management. Currently, some of the courses that she teaches are tourism marketing management, service marketing management, tourist behaviors, and intercultural communications. Also, she is currently the head of tourism management marketing study program at the Faculty of Social Science Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. So without further ado, Ibu Yeni, mangga dihaturanan.
Terima kasih Pak Ubad. Selamat pagi menuju siang semuanya. Saya juga mengaturkan terima kasih pada Pak Abu atas kesempatannya untuk diberi kesempatan bisa sharing pada acara ini. Ini saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja kali ya?
Mangga Ibu.
Nggak apa-apa kan? Pakai bahasa Indonesia aja. Baik. Tadi mungkin sudah diperkenalkan oleh Pak Ubad. Nama saya Yeni dari Prodi Manajemen Pemasaran Pariwisata. Prodi kami merupakan salah satu prodi yang sudah menerima mahasiswa asing dari tahun 2010. Berarti sekarang kurang lebih 10 tahun ya. Dan memang banyak sekali hal yang terjadi, terutama sekali berkaitan dengan masalah kebudayaan, meskipun mahasiswa asing yang datang ke kami itu masih di tingkat Asia, itu ya, belum ada yang dari Eropa atau dari Amerika. Cuman tetap saja ada beberapa hal, ada insiden bahkan mungkin ya yang ada yang lucu, ada yang bikin sedih, ada yang bikin kesal juga gitu. Jadi berbagai hal pernah kami rasakan berkaitan dengan kedatangan international student di prodi kami. Boleh share screen ya. Nah, ini ada sedikit mungkin yang ingin saya bagikan dengan Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Nah, program pertukaran mahasiswa yang ada di prodi kami itu disebut dengan AIMS atau Asia International Mobility for Students. Ini merupakan program pertukaran mahasiswa di bawah Samuel Raihed dan merupakan juga kerjasama government to government. Berbentuk kredit transfer yang berarti bahwa mahasiswa akan menghabiskan 1 semester di host university dan kami juga akan menerima mahasiswa asing dari universitas partner yang akan melaksanakan kegiatan belajar selama 1 semester. Nanti setelah itu ketika pulang ke universitas masing-masing nilai yang diperoleh ditransfer atau dikonversi dengan mata kuliah yang ada di home university. Kegiatan ini diawali pada tahun 2010, namanya waktu itu masih MIT, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, jadi hanya 3 negara. Tapi kemudian seiring berjalannya waktu, banyak negara yang ingin bergabung sehingga menjadi AIMS atau ASEAN International Mobility for Students. Nah, di tahun 2019 ini namanya berubah, bukan lagi ASEAN menjadi Asia karena bergabung negara Jepang dan Korea ke dalam program ini, dan mudah-mudahan di tahun-tahun ke depannya banyak lagi negara lain yang bergabung seperti itu. Untuk saat ini jumlah negara yang tergabung dalam AIMS ada 9 orang yang terdiri dari 78 universitas dan 13 universitasnya adalah dari Indonesia yang salah satunya adalah UPI. Nah, ini adalah alur pelaksanaan program persiapan. Untuk mahasiswa outbound atau mahasiswa yang kami kirim ke sana, kami melakukan beberapa persiapan ya. Yang pertama diawali dengan korespondensi dulu dengan universitas partner. Jadi kita menanyakan apakah tahun ini akan mengirim, kalau mengirim akan berapa dikirimnya, terus kita berikan juga offered courses ya atau mata kuliah yang ditawarkan untuk mereka ambil di sini. Nanti mereka akan dilihat silabusnya, disesuaikan juga dengan mata kuliah mana yang bisa dikonversi di universitas di sana. Nah, setelah dilaksanakan korespondensi, kita mengadakan expose alumni. Ini sebetulnya kegiatan expose alumni ini baru dilakukan beberapa tahun ke belakang ya. Jadi sebetulnya sebelumnya tidak ada kegiatan ini. Kenapa kami melakukan ini? Karena untuk lebih meningkatkan minat mahasiswa untuk mendaftar program ini gitu. Jadi ada penurunan minat mahasiswa yang ingin ikutan program ini, maka untuk mengatasinya kita mengadakan ekspose alumni. Nah, dalam ekspose alumni ini, alumni AIMS atau mereka yang ikut program ini di tahun sebelumnya, ada juga ya di tahun sebelumnya menceritakan pengalamannya seperti apa, hal-hal positif apa yang diambil, sekaligus juga membuka sesi tanya jawab bagi mahasiswa yang ingin tahu kendala apa yang dihadapi gitu. Nah, salah satu masalah yang paling ditakuti oleh mahasiswa kami itu adalah terlambat dalam menyelesaikan studi, karena mereka berpikir ketika kuliah di universitas di luar UPI atau di luar negeri itu mungkin ada mata kuliah yang tidak bisa diambil sehingga akan menambah masa studi. Nah, ini di ekspose alumni inilah kita mengundang alumni-alumni yang dianggap ikutan yang dianggap sukses gitu. Jadi mereka ikut program AIMS tapi juga bisa lulus tepat waktu seperti itu. Nah, dengan adanya kegiatan ini alhamdulillah minatnya naik lagi. Untuk selanjutnya kita melakukan seleksi peserta ya, ada seleksi administrasi dan interview. Kita sesuaikan, kita tanya mereka mau kemana, kita menawarkan apakah mau ke, oh ya tadi saya lupa menyebutkan partner university kita itu ada 3, yaitu Malaysia, Thailand, dan di Korea. Nah, kita tawarkan mereka mau kemana, tentu saja dengan berbagai kekurangan dan kelebihan ya di universitas masing-masing. Dan kita juga melihat si anak ini cocoknya kemana seperti itu. Apakah mereka lebih cocok ke Thailand misalnya, atau lebih cocok ke Malaysia, atau lebih cocok ke Korea. Setelah melakukan seleksi, kita menetapkan mahasiswa yang akan diberangkatkan ke sana sesuai dengan jumlah kuota yang disediakan Dikti. Kami mengadakan pembekalan pre-departure. Ini bekerja sama dengan Balai Bahasa. Jadi untuk pembekalan ini kami mengadakan 2 program. Yang pertama program akademik, yaitu meningkatkan kemampuan berkomunikasi bahasa Inggris, baik lisan maupun tulisan. Yang kedua program non-akademik. Non-akademik ini terdiri dari pengetahuan tentang budaya, seperti itu ya. Karena meskipun masih sama-sama serumpun dengan Malaysia, dengan Thailand gitu ya, sama-sama Asia Tenggara, tapi tetap aja ada hal yang berbeda di sana gitu. Jadi kita memberikan pemahaman-pemahaman nanti di sana itu kondisinya akan seperti apa, mungkin kesulitan yang dihadapi seperti apa, dan bagaimana cara mengatasinya, kurang lebih begitu. Selanjutnya keberangkatan ini biasanya mereka pesan tiket sendiri ya, tapi tetap kita pantau gitu. Kita kasih peringatan, misalnya jangan terlalu pepet pesannya dan lain sebagainya. Terus hati-hati, pokoknya seperti itulah. Meskipun kalau misalnya mereka berangkatnya dari Jakarta, kita kadang-kadang nggak kita antar gitu, tapi mereka sudah bisa sendiri. Selanjutnya pada masa perkuliahan kita melakukan monitoring. Monitoring ini dilakukan dengan berkomunikasi dengan mahasiswa, apakah itu via telepon atau via WA dan lain sebagainya. Dan 2 tahun sekali kami melakukan kunjungan ke sana, kunjungan ke mahasiswa ke university partner gitu. Jadi tujuannya supaya lebih mendekatkan hubungan dengan orang-orang yang ada di sana gitu. Karena kan kadang-kadang si person in charge-nya itu berganti kayak gitu. Jadi supaya lebih dapat chemistry-nya gitu ya. Setelah itu, setelah selesai 1 semester, mereka pulang kembali lagi ke UPI, lalu melakukan konversi mata kuliah dan kita melakukan evaluasi program. Nah, ketika saya menanyakan pada anak-anak yang berangkat ke sana, kira-kira positif atau negatif, sebagian besar jawabannya itu positif. Mereka sangat senang mendapat pengalaman lintas budaya yang berbeda gitu ya. Karena ternyata kata mereka, Bu, di sana itu belajarnya juga beda dengan di UPI. Bedanya seperti apa? Maksudnya beda gimana? Apakah dari sisi fasilitas atau apa? Kalau fasilitas sudah pasti, Bu, katanya di sana intinya lebih bagus lah daripada di UPI. Cuman gaya belajarnya pun berbeda, katanya seperti itu. Terus belum lagi juga mereka mendapat kesempatan untuk berkunjung ke tempat wisata ya, yang tentunya sangat berkaitan, sangat relevan dengan prodi kami, itu prodi pariwisata. Selain itu juga ya tadi mereka pulang itu dengan membawa pengalaman dan mengubah, ada perubahan yang terjadi gitu. Yang tadinya mahasiswa yang dikirim untuk AIMS itu yang tadinya ketika berangkat dia orangnya pemalu, jarang pasif gitu ya, terus kurang asertif. Tapi ketika kembali dia menjadi pribadi yang berbeda, dia lebih terbuka, lebih outspoken dan lain sebagainya. Nah, selanjutnya untuk yang inbound atau penerimaan mahasiswa luar ke UPI, ini kurang lebih sama ya. Pertama, kita melakukan korespondensi dengan Universitas Mitra dan mempersiapkan mata kuliah. Jadi untuk mata kuliah yang ditawarkan akan diambil ini dari sebelum mulai perkuliahan, kita sudah siapkan terutama dari dosennya. Begitu. Dosennya ini siapa yang akan mengajar, kalau misalnya yang bersangkutan berhalangan atau ingin pindah ke mata kuliah lain, maka harus disiapkan pengganti yang kira-kira memiliki kemampuan untuk mengajar menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Selanjutnya hal yang tidak kalah pentingnya adalah pemilihan body. Ini dari 10 tahun kita menjalankan program ini, kita benar-benar menyadari bahwa yang namanya body itu sangat penting gitu bagi mahasiswa internasional. Jadi body itu ibaratnya kayak pihak yang menjembatani antara mahasiswa asing dengan prodi. Sekaligus mereka juga yang memperkenalkan budaya Indonesia kepada mahasiswa asing yang datang. Ini body ini dari OIR juga ada, dari dia juga ada, tapi kami juga menyediakan body sendiri. Jadi tujuannya supaya mahasiswa asing itu merasa lebih dekat gitu ya dengan prodi, tidak ada ketika misalnya ada hal yang ingin disampaikan bisa menyampaikannya dengan menyampaikan kepada badinya. Dan biasanya badi ini dipilih, badi ini merupakan alumni AIMS. Jadi misalnya alumni AIMS yang tahun kemarin, maka ketika mereka kembali, mereka akan menjadi badi seperti itu. Atau mereka yang ingin ikut AIMS tahun mendatang, maka mereka menjadi badi. Nah ini dengan sistem seperti itu sangat lumayan positif gitu ya. Karena untuk yang sudah pernah kan mereka udah ada teman gitu di sana, sudah berkenalan. Jadi ketika mahasiswa asing ini datang, kadang-kadang yang datang itu adalah teman dia ketika dia menjadi mahasiswa AIMS seperti itu. Jadi komunikasinya bisa lebih lancar, terus bisa lebih enak dan lain sebagainya. Setelah itu kami melakukan pembekalan. Pembekalan ini juga sama ya. Kita kita memberikan pesan sponsor gitu ya, memberikan pesan sponsor bahwa tugas badi itu seperti ini, job desk-nya seperti ini dan lain sebagainya. Nanti prodi juga memberikan bantuan finansial kepada para badi ini karena mereka itu kan sering diminta untuk mengantar, terutama pas ketika mereka baru datang. Ketika baru datang itu kadang-kadang kan suka pengen diantar kemana gitu, belanja, beli apa. Nah kan kalau misalnya mereka tidak mengeluarkan dari uang sendiri kan kasihan gitu ya. Sementara ini kan untuk kepentingan prodi. Maka kita juga mengalokasikan anggaran untuk operasional si badi tersebut seperti itu. Setelah itu dilakukan penjemputan. Nah biasanya pada saat penjemputan badinya suka ikut dengan orang yang akan ngejemput gitu. Meskipun itu di Jakarta, kita usahakan ada 1 atau 2 badi dari prodi yang ikut menjemput ke sana. Karena kan kasihan ya misalnya mereka penerbangan lama gitu kan, terus apalagi kalau datangnya malam, terus misalnya belum makan, belum apa dan lain sebagainya gitu. Jadi kalau dengan badi mungkin bisa lebih enak ketika misalnya mereka pengen makan atau ada teman cerita atau gimana lah seperti itu ya. Nah setelah tiba di kampus, biasanya di hari kedua setelah mereka istirahat, mereka akan datang ke prodi untuk dikenalkan dengan dosen dan kita juga mengadakan welcoming program. Aduh maaf, ini lagi batuk. Welcoming program ini biasanya diikuti oleh semua dosen, terutama dosen prodi MPP ya, yang baik itu yang mengajar maupun yang tidak mengajar. Jadi biasanya kita ada kegiatan makan bersama itu. Kita undang semua anak AIMS dan semua dosen untuk berkenalan sekaligus mencairkan suasana lah gitu ya. Karena ini kan sifatnya settingnya informal gitu. kita bisa ngobrol-ngobrol, chit-chat segala macam, supaya mereka merasa lebih nyaman. Nah, selanjutnya ini sebelum ke monitoring melakukan kegiatan persiapan akademik ya, seperti kontrak kuliah, terus penunjukan dosen PA dan lain sebagainya, sekaligus juga pemilihan mata kuliah atau mereka melaporkan mata kuliah apa yang akan diambil di sini dan melihat jadwal, penyocokan jadwal gitu. Jadi kadang-kadang kan misalnya ternyata jadwalnya bentrok, maka mereka disarankan untuk pindah ke kelas yang satunya lagi seperti itu. Selanjutnya dalam masa perkuliahan kita juga melakukan monitoring. Ini biasanya peran Badi di sini juga sangat besar karena kami itu istilahnya mengetahui kondisi mahasiswa asing itu biasanya dari Badi. Kita tanya ke Badinya, bagaimana sih itu, betah atau enggak, kira-kira keluhannya seperti apa, dan lain sebagainya. Karena kan kadang-kadang ada anak yang mereka itu misalnya punya keluhan, tapi untuk ngomong langsung itu segan atau malu atau apalah gitu ya. Akhirnya dipendam sendiri. Tapi biasanya kalau dengan teman itu kan suka lebih gampang untuk bercerita gitu. Jadi biasanya kita tanya ke Badinya. Kalau misalnya ternyata ada masalah, baru nanti kita panggil si anaknya, kita tanya masalahnya seperti apa. Nah, setelah selesai 1 semester, mereka pulang ke negara masing-masing dan kita memproses nilai yang mereka peroleh di sini, lalu kita serahkan ke universitas home university masing-masing seperti itu. Dan terakhir kita juga melakukan evaluasi. Nah, ini selama 10 tahun ini banyak sekali yang kami kami alami, kami pelajari gitu. Yang pertama sekali tentunya diperlukan peningkatan kompetensi bahasa Inggris dosen. Ini tentunya bukan hanya bahasa ya, tapi juga pemahaman budaya gitu. Bagaimana dosen bisa memahami misalnya kalau ada perilaku di awal-awal yang kok ini beda ya seperti ini. Nah, jangan dulu menjudge negatif atau gimana gitu, tapi kita lihat dulu latar belakangnya seperti apa ya. Nah, di awal-awal program ini dosen yang mengajar program AIMS itu mungkin cuma 2 atau 3 orang ya, karena tadi masih terbatas kompetensi bahasa Inggrisnya. Tapi sekarang alhamdulillah semuanya sudah semua dosen prodi MPP sudah mampu mengajar dengan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Dan karena programnya juga sudah berjalan lama, ya kita juga sudah semakin paham gitu ya keunikan masing-masing mahasiswa asing yang datang ke MPP. Terus selanjutnya untuk program ini juga kami harus mempersiapkan mahasiswa karena mahasiswa asing itu belajarnya bersama dengan mahasiswa lokal. Jadi mereka berada dalam satu kelas dengan mahasiswa lokal. Ini kita harus mempersiapkan yang pertama mahasiswa yang akan diberangkatkan, yang kedua mahasiswa yang akan belajar dengan mahasiswa asing seperti itu. Nah, untuk yang diberangkatkan otomatis ya sudah ada alurnya, yaitu tadi melalui proses seleksi tadi kita lihat dari sisi kemampuan akademiknya, terus kemampuan bahasa Inggrisnya, juga mentalitas dia seperti apa, seperti itu. Nah, sementara untuk mahasiswa yang lokal di sini yang akan belajar bersama dengan mahasiswa asing, ini tentunya faktor yang penting untuk disiapkan adalah kemampuan bahasa Inggris. Karena kan mau tidak mau kelas itu harus dilakukan, kelas itu harus berjalan dan harus menggunakan bahasa Inggris gitu. Dosen harus mengajar bahasa Inggris dan dia juga harus mengerti. Kalau misalnya tidak mengerti ya pasti akan mendapat nilai yang jelek. Selain itu, supaya bisa merangkul teman-temannya yang berasal dari luar, tentunya diperlukan kemampuan berbicara bahasa Inggris ya, seperti itu. Nah, di awal strategi yang kami lakukan adalah di semester 2 itu kita sudah memisahkan antara mahasiswa yang bahasa Inggrisnya bagus dengan yang kurang. Jadi misalnya kelas A itu adalah kelas yang disiapkan untuk AIMS, di mana mereka memiliki nilai bahasa Inggris yang relatif lebih baik daripada anak-anak di kelas B seperti itu. Tapi makin ke sini saya lihat tapi ya makin ke sini itu karena tadi ada jadwal yang bentrok, jadi mau tidak mau harus masuk ke kelas B. Nah, ternyata dengan dibegitukan anak-anak kelas B itu jadi dipaksa untuk belajar bahasa Inggris. Sampai akhirnya ternyata saya lihat makin ke sini kemampuan anak-anak berbahasa Inggris itu semakin baik ya. Sehingga tidak perlu lagi ada pemisahan antara kelas A dan B gitu. Jadi anak EMS itu bisa masuk ke kelas A atau bisa masuk ke kelas B tanpa harus kita pisahkan dari awal berdasarkan kemampuan bahasa Inggris. Dan juga sebelum mereka masuk ke kelas itu selalu saya kumpulkan anak-anaknya, terus saya berikan semacam ujangan gitulah ya, semacam pesan bahwa nanti mereka akan kedatangan mahasiswa internasional, harus diperlakukan dengan baik dan harus dirangkul gitu. Jangan dibiarkan mereka menggerombol sendiri. Karena biasanya kalau misalnya yang datang bertiga, maka bertiga itu bertiga terus gitu. Kadang-kadang seperti itu. Nah, jangan dibiarkan seperti itu, harus dirangkul, harus diajak ngobrol, harus buat mereka merasa nyaman dan buat mereka merasa bahwa mereka itu nggak sendiri gitu. Itu yang selalu saya tekankan kepada kelas yang di dalamnya ada mahasiswa internasional. Sambil juga dimonitoring minggu ketiga saya tanya gimana teman-teman dengan teman-teman di sana, nyaman nggak? Atau saya tanya ke dosennya gimana kondisi di kelasnya kondusif atau tidak, seperti itu. Kalau misalnya ternyata kadang-kadang anaknya itu bilang atau badingnya itu bilang, iya Bu, di kelas itu nggak ada yang ngajak ngobrol katanya. Nah, maka saya kumpulkan lagi kelasnya, saya tanya kenapa, masalahnya seperti apa dan lain sebagainya. Bukan kadang ya, seringkali jawabannya itu sama gitu, karena anak-anak yang lokal itu merasa tidak pede dengan kemampuan bahasa Inggrisnya gitu. Karena misalnya yang datang itu dari Thailand yang bahasa Inggrisnya lebih cas-cis-cus gitu ya, lebih fluent dari mereka, itu mereka merasa tidak percaya diri, merasa takut untuk mengajak berbicara dan lain sebagainya. Itu saya tekankan jangan takut untuk masalah bahasa, yang penting mau grammarnya sesalah apapun gitu ya, yang penting maksud kita dia mengerti, itu aja dulu gitu. Yang penting adalah membuat mereka merasa kita itu welcome dengan kedatangan mereka, itu aja dulu yang penting. Masalah bahasa Inggris bagus atau tidak bagus, mungkin sebetulnya itu juga ada dalam pikiran kita sendiri ya, kita merasa tidak pede dengan kemampuan bahasa Inggris, padahal sebetulnya omongan kita itu masih bisa dipahami seperti itu. Nah, terus yang selanjutnya yang ketiga, ini juga bagi kami ya, para dosen di Prodi, meningkatkan pemahaman lintas budaya, karena seperti yang tadi saya sebutkan di awal, ini kasusnya beragam, ada yang lucu, ada yang menyebalkan gitu ya. Contohnya misalnya kebiasaan di kelas seperti itu kan. Kalau di kelas kami di Prodi Pariwisata itu disiplin gitu ya, dan selama perkuliahan berlangsung tidak boleh makan. Nah, sementara si anak ini ada yang makan. Ketika ditanya kenapa kamu makan, ketika ditanya sama badingnya, kamu kok makan di kelas, dia bilang, loh saya ketika di kampus sana kok saya boleh kok kalau sekedar makan permen dan lain sebagainya, katanya gitu. Nah, itu pun menjadi jadi PR bagi kita semua untuk memperkenalkan budaya di kita seperti apa, tapi kita juga harus bisa memahami atau harus bisa memahami seperti itu ya. Dan selanjutnya tentu saja selalu meningkatkan pelayanan akademik dan non-akademik. Pelayanan akademik ini berkaitan dengan konsultasi, berkaitan dengan pembelajaran di kelas. Kadang-kadang suka ada komplain, Bu, Ibu atau Bapak ini mengajarnya tidak jelas katanya. Kenapa? Karena campur dengan bahasa Indonesia. Sementara mahasiswa yang beliau ajar itu adalah dari Korea misalnya. Nah, ini berarti tugas kami dari Prodi untuk memberikan pemahaman kepada dosen yang bersangkutan gitu ya, bahwa di kelas internasional itu jangan sampai bahasanya campur, atau kalaupun misalnya mau campur, bahasa Indonesia itu digunakan untuk menekankan atau mengulang lagi apa yang disampaikan dalam bahasa Inggris seperti itu. Atau sebelumnya diinformasikan ke mahasiswanya bahwa bahasa Indonesia yang digunakan itu adalah merupakan pengulangan dari apa yang diungkapkan dalam bahasa Inggris. Jadi mahasiswa itu tidak merasa dia diobrolkan atau kehilangan informasi seperti itu. Dan untuk non akademiknya ini memperkenalkan budaya dan daya tarik wisata terutama di Kota Bandung gitu ya. Jadi apakah itu apakah itu dengan badinya atau ditemani oleh dosen. Jadi tujuannya supaya mereka memiliki pengalaman selain dari pengalaman belajar di kelas. Dan tentunya yang tidak kalah penting adalah koordinasi dengan berbagai pihak, baik itu dengan international office, dengan fakultas maupun dengan direktorat akademik, di mana akan sangat berperan nanti ketika pemasukan nilai, terutama ya pemasukan nilai, konversi nilai, dan juga untuk mengeluarkan transkrip nilai dari mahasiswa asing seperti itu. Nah, kesulitannya apa saja sih? Nah, ini hanya beberapa kesulitan yang dialami oleh mahasiswa asing di kelas kami ya, yaitu yang pertama masalah akademik. Nah, mungkin ini ada hubungannya juga dengan budaya, yaitu jam perkuliahan. Jadi di kami itu kuliah dimulai jam 7 pagi. Sementara di universitas partner itu lebih siang dimulainya, ada yang mulai jam 9, ada yang jam 8. Terus selain itu juga faktor cuaca. Thailand itu kan panas ya. Mahasiswa dari Thailand yang datang ke kami itu berasal dari Phuket. Phuket itu kayak Bali-nya Thailand. Jadi cuacanya panas gitu karena pantai. Sementara di sini cuacanya dingin. Pagi-pagi mereka harus bangun pagi untuk kuliah jam 7. Nah, harusnya jam 7 udah masuk, mereka baru datang setengah 8 gitu. Nah, kalau dibiarkan juga kan tidak baik untuk mahasiswa lokal mendapat perlakuan yang tidak sama gitu ya dengan mahasiswa internasional. Tapi kalau kita terlalu keras juga ke mereka, misalnya menegur dengan cara yang keras, dengan cara yang bikin malu juga kan tidak baik, karena mau tidak mau mereka tamu gitu. Jadi kita berikan pengertian pelan-pelan mengenai jam perkuliahan gitu ya. Dan di sini juga peran Badi sangat penting gitu untuk memberikan pemahaman tersebut. Kita panggil, kita berikan pemahaman pelan-pelan, mulai misalnya oke, kalau begitu kita kasih kesempatan berapa kali, nanti selanjutnya harus datang tepat jam 7 seperti itu. Gaya belajar juga sama, misalnya seperti anak-anak UITM yang datang ke sini, mereka kan sangat textbook banget gitu ya. Ketika datang ke MPP belajar lebih banyak project based dan lain sebagainya, mereka agak kaget kayak gitu. Nah, terus kemudian kesulitannya blending di kelas ini juga sama ya, blending di kelas. Jadi kadang mereka merasa sangat betah dengan temannya, dengan teman senegaranya gitu, sehingga kadang-kadang lupa untuk berinteraksi dengan mahasiswa lokal yang lain gitu. Jadi di sini kita memberikan arahan kepada kedua belah pihak, baik itu kepada mahasiswa lokal maupun kepada mahasiswa AIMS untuk berusaha untuk blending di kelas gitu. Ketika mengerjakan tugas kelompok itu jangan cuma sekelompok dengan teman dari negaranya aja, tapi campur dengan yang lain seperti itu. Selanjutnya juga masalah budaya. Nah, ini kebiasaan, sopan santun, adat istiadat gitu ya. Ini juga merupakan suatu hal yang mungkin menjadi kesulitan bagi mahasiswa asing untuk memahami, terutama di UPI kan mayoritas beragama Islam ya, sementara yang datang ke kami itu dari Thailand maupun Korea beragama non-Islam, kecuali yang dari Malaysia. Nah gitu, jadi kadang-kadang misalnya ada kasus di mana mereka hari sebelum kuliah itu malamnya mereka party gitu ya, jadi datang ke kelas itu dengan penampilan yang kurang baik seperti itu, atau ada badinya atau ada temannya yang diajak ayo party yuk, minum minuman keras dan lain sebagainya. Nah itu biasanya temannya suka lapor ke prodi, Bu saya diajak gini sama si itu gitu. Nah itu juga kita berusaha untuk luruskan ya kepada mahasiswa asing yang datang bahwa untuk minum minuman keras itu di kita bukan merupakan hal yang lazim gitu atau hal yang biasa seperti itu. Jadi tolong kalau misalnya ingin melakukan hal tersebut, jangan mengajak teman-teman yang dari Indonesia atau dan lain sebagainya seperti itu. Terus juga orientasi seksual. Ada juga yang orientasi seksualnya tidak sama dengan kita gitu ya. Sehingga itu juga menimbulkan kekagetan di antara teman-teman yang ada di sini gitu. Itu juga kita beri pemahaman pada anak-anak yang ada di sini bahwa di negara mereka hal itu suatu hal yang lumrah dan wajar, dan selama tidak membahayakan bagi mahasiswa kita yang ada di sini ya saya kira ya harus ditemenin, tetap harus ditemenin gitu, jangan sampai dijauhin hanya gara-gara orientasi seksualnya yang berbeda seperti itu. Dan yang terakhir adalah motivasi. Nah, motivasi ini biasanya di awal itu mereka cukup semangat gitu ya, tapi makin ke sana keinginan untuk mainnya itu lebih kuat daripada untuk kuliah gitu. Ini terjadi beberapa kasus seperti itu. Jadi di pertengahan itu mereka sudah mulai jarang masuk. Pasti tanya kemana? Main bu ke anu gitu. Main bu ke anu. Nah ini pun kita berusaha untuk luruskan ya hal ini. Kita beri pemahaman bahwa mereka datang ke sini itu untuk belajar. Oke lah, pemahaman budaya, pemahaman tempat yang ada di Bandung atau di Indonesia juga baik untuk diketahui gitu ya, tapi kan bukan berarti harus menerlantarkan kewajiban untuk belajar. Biasanya saya sampaikan juga hal ini kepada advisor mereka gitu, bahwa mahasiswa ini perilakunya begini, mohon untuk ditegur. Jadi nanti advisor dari mereka juga akan memberikan teguran seperti itu. Nah, mungkin itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Menarik ya Bu Yeni, apalagi tentang kesulitan-kesulitan dan kekagetan-kekagetan yang justru ternyata tidak hanya dari masa internasionalnya, tapi dari badinya juga ya, banyak mendapatkan culture shock dan lain-lain. Baik, Bapak Ibu peserta e-sharing pada siang hari ini, bila ada yang ingin ditanyakan baik kepada Ruth ataupun Sap ataupun Bu Yeni, disilakan untuk mengisi di chat box ataupun boleh untuk raise hand supaya bisa interaksi langsung dengan semua pembicara. But I'll go first. So, Ruth, I'm actually really curious about what attracted you the most to visit Indonesia. I mean, because as you mentioned earlier that your country is 10,000 kilometers away, right? And your background, your educational background was not related to Indonesia at all. I mean, it was Japanese language and literature. So what actually attracted you the most at that time?
Oh, thank you. That's really good question. Actually, you're right. I finished my bachelor in Japanese, and I had few attempts to go to Japan to have a international program, the same as here in Indonesia. But once I tried it, I failed once, and I was like, oh, okay, no more Japan. So I don't know why I got more curious at that time about communication with different people from different countries, and I got some friends from Indonesia. And the thing is, I never heard of Indonesia before a lot, and I only knew Bali, and I thought it's different country. Bali is a country.
That's what every foreigner thought, you know. They thought that Bali is actually another country.
Yeah, so I was confused, like, what is Indonesia? Where is it? What is the culture about? Yes, I ever learned about, like in my geography classes about Kalimantan, about Sulawesi, but I never knew it's like one country. I know maybe I didn't study well at that time, but yeah, so the thing is, I get curious. And some friends of mine, the ones from Indonesia, also shared a lot about the country. So I was like, wow, that would be interesting to join kind of program here. So I searched by myself in internet and I decided to join.
All right.
So is that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, Sap, yeah, while waiting for others to ask the questions, because I saw on your short bio that you have a lot of experiences in several countries, right? And tell me about your experience as a Muslim in different countries. Is there any shocks that you found, just like once in terms of the international communication, multicultural communication, intercultural communication?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Actually, me as a Muslim minority in my country, because Philippines is known for Christian country. We have 90%, more than 90% Christian population, and we are populating like 105 million now. So at first, when I came to Brunei Darussalam, I felt the difference between Muslim community there and my country, of course. But the feelings when I came to Indonesia is more different because, like, when I came in Indonesia, I felt like, of course, even though we are very near, just 4 hours away by plane, but um, the culture is really different because after that day when I arrived in Jakarta, I saw a lot of people wearing hijab, which is very not normal to my, like when I see it, because in my country, like it's so little that you can actually find people wearing hijab, not
Okay.
unless if you're in the Muslim community. So when
Okay.
when I arrived in Solo, I was so shocked that like everywhere, like there's azan, like I
Yeah.
mean, like it's so different. Like from that moment, I felt that, oh, I think I can survive in Indonesia because even though I'm going to stay here for 2 years, I felt very comfortable because in my country, like I'm struggling praying anywhere. Like that's the motivation why my major is Islamic education. It's because I'm a Muslim. I came from a Catholic country, but I want to know more about my country. That's
Ah.
why I studied in Brunei, Malaysia, and in Indonesia
Ah.
also. So things like that actually. So even though I'm Muslim, but I was raised in a Catholic country. But the thing was, I'm very comfortable in this country. I felt like I'm more local now.
So, yeah, in relation to that, do you actually plan to pursue your career here in Indonesia after graduation?
I thought you're going to ask like you're going to plan to marry here.
I mean, that can include to the question too.
Actually, I'm not closing the door of opportunities because I'm not
Okay.
going to, come back here again if I don't like your country. Even before when I graduated 2015, 2016 in Solo, no, 2015, my master's degree. After 1 year, I miss Indonesia. That's why I applied for Dharma Siswa, even though I'm already working during that time. So I think, yeah, if there's a chance, why not? I'm
Okay.
very comfortable here.
Ya, thank you so much. Nah, sekarang ke Bu Yani nih saya penasaran, Bu. Kan ini pengalaman AIMS-nya sudah lumayan lama ya, Bu ya. Adakah dari Prodi MPP sendiri, adakah rencana untuk ekspansi, baik itu AIMS ataupun mencari program lain, tapi ekspansi ke misalnya nambah benua begitu, Bu? Atau misalnya masih di Asia tapi lebih luas lagi?
Kalau itu pasti pengen banget ya, pengen menambah partner gitu, apakah itu dalam program AIMS atau bukan. Cuman kendalanya selalu kembali lagi ke masalah biaya.
Mang
Nah,
dananya.
iya, Mang Dana. Karena program AIMS sendiri kan ini dibantu sebetulnya oleh Dikti ya. Jadi mahasiswa yang diberangkatkan itu mendapat pendanaan. Itu masalah cukup atau tidaknya kan tergantung dari individu masing-masing seperti apa expenditure-nya di sana ya, expense-nya di sana. Nah, cuman kalau misalnya kita pengen ke negara yang kayak misalnya terlalu Eropa atau apalah gitu ya, atau ke Jepang atau kemana, nanti kan kembali lagi ke masalah tadi pendanaan biaya. Sebetulnya kalau misalnya anak-anaknya tidak keberatan sih sudah pasti akan kita usahakan gitu. Cuman ya ternyata dari sisi finansial juga kan tidak banyak mahasiswa yang mampu untuk mengeluarkan uang sebanyak itu gitu ya. Cuman ya mudah-mudahan sih ke depannya kalau misalnya ada negara yang sudah bekerja sama punya MOU dengan UPI terus ingin melakukan tukar-menukar mahasiswa dengan mewaive biaya pendidikan, itu mungkin bisa sangat membantu seperti itu. Karena kan biaya living cost-nya aja kan kalau di negara Eropa atau di Korea atau Jepang itu kan sebulan udah habis berapa gitu, udah mahal banget gitu. Jadi kalau pengen sih pengen ya, cuma itu Mang Dana masalahnya.
Everybody's problem ya itu,
Kembali lagi ke Mang Dana, ya betul.
Oke, terima kasih. Baik Bapak Ibu peserta e-sharing pada siang hari ini, adakah lagi hal yang ingin didiskusikan? Oke, jika tidak ada, saya rasa mungkin ini saatnya saya mengembalikan kendali acara kepada Arifia. Tapi sebelumnya, let's once again give a big round of applause to all of the speakers for today's e-sharing session. Thank you so much. Dengan berakhirnya tadi respon dari Bu Yani, berakhir pula sesi e-sharing ini. Untuk itu saya kembalikan kepada MC Arifia. Silakan.
Terima kasih untuk sharing dan sesi diskusinya.
Suaranya kecil sekali, Via.
Tes.
Nah, gitu
Gimana?
kayaknya harus agak dekat, betul.
Oke. Terima kasih untuk sesi sharing dan diskusinya. Bapak Ibu, sebelum menutup kegiatan, ada informasi mengenai kursus singkat Classroom Language yang akan dimulai Selasa depan pada tanggal 27 April 2021 pukul 1 siang. Link kursusnya akan dibagikan melalui email dosen yang sudah mendaftar kemarin. Jadwalnya bisa dicek mungkin di sini atau bisa di screenshot, atau nanti jadwal ini pun akan di-share melalui email dosen yang sudah didaftarkan. Baik Bapak Ibu, karena waktunya sudah hampir jam 11, mari kita menutup acara ini dengan sesi foto bersama. Dipersilakan kepada Bapak Ibu yang terhormat untuk menyalakan kameranya.
Di close dulu mungkin, ya.
Iya, mungkin via stop share. Nah,
Ke Bapak Ibu, 1, 2, 3. 1 kali lagi. 1, 2. Ya, terima kasih. Sesi foto bersama menjadi penutup acara Preparation for International Class e-sharing on Cross-Cultural Understanding. Mari bersama-sama kita ucapkan hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu yang telah meluangkan waktu dan hadir di acara ini. Kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Saya Arifia Ahmada selaku MC pamit undur diri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih semuanya. Thank you everybody.
Terima kasih Sa, Bu Yani dan semuanya
Bu
Bapak.
Sami-sami, salam sunat.
Atur nuhun sadayana Bapak
Pak
Ibu.
Tusi, Obad.
Izin, live undur diri dulu.
Izin untuk saya end meetingnya. Terima kasih.
Mangga hatur nuhun Bu Maha.
Kami Bu.
Terus